Well, Dan, good afternoon.
Oh, hey, Geoff. We made it.
We made it. We're kind of rounding out the final stretch here. Thanks for joining me here on the stage this afternoon. Just had a couple things. As you know, we launched our partnership here a while back. We had a shared vision for bringing unique data to our customers to try and have a competitive advantage, and doing that through their existing systems of record and systems of engagement, AKA operational systems. So we've had some success. The engagement has borne a lot of positive fruits, and we're very bullish on it. So maybe let's step back and talk a little bit about, if you were starting this out and said, hey, what kind of data would I want to have access to that would give me a competitive advantage? What would that be?
I mean, look, every time we're talking about data, we want to talk about like the persona. We want to talk about, like how do we make it the most actionable possible data?
Yeah.
And then when you're playing any game, like you're competing in any way, it's all about not just having the same amount of information as your competitor or your partner, but also having the more like a deeper level of contextualized data. And I'm going to sound like a broken record about context, like so really, if I'm a shipper or I'm an LSP and I'm negotiating for a spot load, absolutely. What I want is, what are the contract rates out there right now? What are the spot rates that are out there right now? But I want to go a level deeper as well. So I want to look at, hey, what's the tender reject trend looking like right now?
Yeah.
What is just the overall tender volume looking at right now? And I want to also be able to look at the actual up and down of like where that specific lane is trending for that specific day. And I mean, that same concept can be extended out across any persona, but what's most important is that contextualized data at a user's fingertips.
Okay, so you touched on a couple of really important things. One, contextual data that's actionable, but you also talked about some things that are probably not familiar or that users are used to on a regular basis, right? Not everyone understands tenders, how to leverage those to understand trends of the market. So how do you take this new information set and drive adoption of that data?
All right, you ready to like get weird?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna tell you something about me is, if I've got like a weekend night at home by myself, like I'm gonna turn the TV on, I'm gonna order a burger, and I'm gonna sit there with burger and fries, and I'm gonna have Netflix on, and then I'm gonna realize as I'm sitting on the couch that there's no condiments, there's no ketchup, no mustard, anything on that burger. In my fridge, 20 feet away, I've got all the condiments that I need.
Okay.
I'm eating a dry burger. 10 out of 10 times I'm eating a dry burger because I'm not going to actually take that next step. And this is what happens when we see with users, right?
Yeah.
Is users working in any system on a day-to-day basis, whether it's operations, finance, et cetera, they're like, if you make information available to them, a lot of times they will make decisions and never actually go and grab that information. So if I've got a license to go look at some sonar data, but it's not right there in the load that I'm working on at that moment, I may not even look. I might assume that the previous load that I moved for that lane is going to be indicative of what I'm seeing in the future.
Okay.
And so the key here is put it right there into their workflow, and you're integrating the appropriate data points. You're putting it right in front of the actual users as they're making the decisions to a point where they can't make a decision without seeing this contextualized information.
So basically making it easy for them to consume the unique data to gain that competitive advantage that we're hoping to.
Exactly.
Love the analogy of the burger, watching Netflix at night. All right, so let's say you commit to that journey of getting access to unique data, and then you take the next step of getting that data in the hands of the users who are using those current existing systems of record or systems of engagement, what would be some expected outcomes of doing that one would hope to achieve?
So one of the things that we tend to measure is, every company has their own version of this, but we call it overspend, right? And so, hey, did I spend the minimum amount for that move for that day that I could have possibly spent, right? Or am I overspending using a different contract, a different carrier, a different mode than I needed to? And so one of the things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be measuring against that. But more importantly, I'm going to be measuring against the baselines, right? So because I have this data,
Okay.
this is what I'm now able to do. So we thinking about it of like that strategic and that tactical user or that persona, that mindset. On a strategic level, I could take all of my load data for the whole month, the whole year, whatever, and I can pull that information from Sonar, and I've got my different indices, I've got my spot, I got my contract, I know exactly what those trends look like over time, but I don't really know what went into the actual decision-making process for the end user when they were sending a tender out to XYZ carrier.
Okay.
If I've integrated that data directly into the TMS, or depending on the shipper, it might be it might be an ERP, or some folks even operating from a WMS. But if I've integrated that data and I've got it like embedded within that workflow, as a strategic user, I can now roll all of that up, and I can look at the comparison of the different decision points that go into this. I can understand kind of that mindset, and the biggest thing is, now, when I'm pulling any of that data, I've got an ETL process from my system going into a data warehouse. I've got this massive BI strategy. It's all already there, and these are just new data points. And all I got to do is just go to a reporting team, say, hey, give me a dashboard with this, right?
Yeah. So what you articulated now is not simply just having unique data that gives you a competitive advantage, but now you've got the ability, because it's self-contained within the workflow of that transaction. Now you're capturing that data, you have the ability to put it in a data warehouse or data lake, as you said, and now you have the whole transaction, including some of these unique insights, to see what kind of impact you can now have on the business.
Right, exactly. And so, like the analogy that we've used, when we're working with FreightWaves and FreightWaves customers is, it's like you're enabling a user to be playing poker where everybody else's cards are on the table. It's exactly.
Two good analogies today.
I'll crush it on analogies, but that's exactly what we want for that end user, the person who, honestly, they are the most impactful within the process. But if we then flip the script and say, all right, well, now what's the value up the chain, right? What's the value to your CFO, your COO, your chief logistics officer, supply chain officer? It's now being able to get the insights on the behaviors that are taking place, looking at what those successes are, and starting to isolate those and turn that into process changes, turn that into proactive procurement and analysis negotiations with your carrier base, so that it's no longer just about relying on that end user. It's about an actual strategic level where, because I've got this data, because I understand what the carriers want, what my brokers want, customers want, I'm able to start becoming that that shipper of that shipper of record, that preferred shipper, receiver,
Yep.
that SROC.
Yep. So, a big theme of the last 2 days has been the market obviously is soft right now, and it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. The problem is no one knows when it's going to change. Is now the time to look at this as a strategy to help fortify, what your capabilities are, be prepared for when the market does turn, and so that you've got systems like this that are taking contextualized, actionable data, putting it in the hands of the users via their existing systems, and be better prepared for tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. Like now is absolutely the time, but also, again, you're looking at the two different sides of the same coin. You've got the brokers and LSPs that are out there. You've got the shippers that are out there. On the brokerage side, I mean, look, it's a volume game, right? It's about capturing that market share right now and being able to capitalize on that as the market starts to turn. In order to start getting that type of volume and be able to start and make that as profitable as you possibly can at the moment, it is all about the data at your fingertips.
Yeah.
On the shipper side, it's the same thing. Now, you're at the advantage right now, but what you're doing is, like we were talking about, is you're capturing those data points at this point in time. You're getting that into your overall BI strategy, and now you can start, really like coming to the table with a lot of insights when the market does turn, and you want to like really focus down on that, on those contracted rates and those partnerships as you're moving forward. So, I mean, yes, absolutely, that's the time. And one of the things that we've been able to do together is create some repeatability around those integrations, whether it's a shipper TMS or ERP, whether it's a brokerage system, and be able to say, hey, look, regardless of what that workflow is, these integrations are there. They're flexible enough to start enabling that, that end-to-end workflow.
So maybe let's talk about that. You can do integrations without having pre-built connectors, so to speak. What are the benefits and trade-offs of using pre-built connectors and technology as opposed to writing point-to-point integrations?
Sure, absolutely. It's about repeatability and flexibility, right? Yeah. So I think it is no secret a lot of companies use more than one system, or they're in the middle of transitioning from one to another. If in that point-to-point integration strategy, you're now dead set into like that specific behavior, that specific workflow, and if you ever change anything, you're now unplugging and rebuilding that integration. Yep. And so really what we've focused on here is building that flexibility with the FreightWaves APIs, while also being able to say, hey, look, it doesn't matter if the source system is Oracle or MercuryGate or Blue Yonder or or even just like an SAP ERP. All you're doing is you're saying, all right, what is the workflow that's going to be most important for this user profile? Yep. Do I need to do this synchronously, like in real time, or do I need to just say, hey, I'm going to send this out and just send it back in whenever you've got it? Am I looking at this from a reporting perspective, or am I looking at this from an operational perspective? And meeting all those needs, regardless of that source, that destination stays the same. And we keep building around all of these new capabilities that FreightWaves keeps introducing. And so constantly keeping that in tune so I can reuse that for every single customer.
So that would imply that you have a lower total cost of ownership down the road.
Oh,
expand on that?
Absolutely. So think about all the things that go into an integration. It's not just the workflow consultants, on your source system. It's not just the API architecture and the infrastructure that you need to be able to build out. It's not just the actual like developers that you're going to need to be able to bring in, but it's also the ongoing costs. It's the support and maintenance. It's keeping up with what your end provider is putting out there, as they introduce their own enhancements.
Yeah.
And that's really the key. Is you're removing all that OpEx, you're removing all that CapEx, and you're saying, hey, look, this is a single connection, and let's just keep rolling this out. It's one of the most valuable things that FreightWaves is offering right now in the market is just core integration with the source TMS.
Yeah. So in essence, you've got what we're talking about is, again, giving unique data that's contextual, it's actionable, but putting it in the hands of those customer-facing employees within their existing systems to drive and maximize adoption, so that you can get some of those expected outcomes that you're looking to try and drive towards to improve the overall health of the business. And in doing that, you put in an architecture that's flexible, that has a lower total cost of ownership down the road.
I mean, you said it pretty cleanly right there. Like, I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, that is like this is my favorite thing to talk about. I would love to talk to you or anybody else about this for hours on end. But yes, it is about the flexibility so you can get that actionable, contextualized data in real time, without putting any additional effort on the users.
Okay. Well, Dan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again. We've had a great partnership so far, and looking forward to doing some great things together moving forward, and excited about what lies ahead. And again, thank you for the time today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, you bet. Absolutely.
Great.